Hey, welcome to the Rochester City Council meeting on April 26, 2021. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Here.
Salvia,
Here.
Bavacqua,
Here.
Albrecht,
Here.
Harrison,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Sage.
Here.
Thank you. Now we're going to have Councilmember Ann Peterson lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ann?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And welcome everyone on this beautiful evening for our council meeting. First, we have public comments scheduled, non-scheduled presentations. First, we have the recognition of 13 Eagle Scouts from Adams High School. Are they here, Mr. Manager? Some of them?
I don't know if they're jumping in. In our packet, we actually did take a photo which with all of their contact information. It's on page 5 in the packet.
Mm-hmm. So I'd just like to say we have 13 seniors from Adams High School who all became Eagle Scouts. And if, according to the write-up, only 2 or 3% of all Scouts become Eagle Scouts. And what I think is very impressive is they have 953 individual hours of community service and 2,037 volunteer hours combined. So we just thought, you know, what a great thing, what a great achievement, but two, also what a great contribution to our community. And you know, we see a lot of negative things in the press and things, but when we have young leaders, young people who are doing things like that, I think that's something we can be proud of from our neighborhood, and also, you know, looking forward to the future. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually know one of the seniors here, Charlie Buckmaster, and I would like to personally congratulate him on this recognition.
Very good. Yeah, so just Councilmember Albrecht.
I wanted to remind everybody that our former mayor, Rob Ray, was an Eagle Scout. He always talked about that. And I was in scouting also. I never made it to this esteemed level. And to be an Eagle Scout is quite an accomplishment. To have 13 in our community is outstanding. So just want to congratulate all 13 of them. This is a lot of hard work, and they gave back to the community with all their projects that you read through. So very inspiring to see this.
Yeah, very, very impressive. So congratulations to them. Okay, next we have the Good Neighbor Award presentation. Rachel, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we are presenting the Good Neighbor Award to Stephanie Smith, who is on the Zoom with us tonight. So she is a member of the Rochester Pollinators Committee as well. I'm going to briefly read about her nomination. She joined the committee in 2019 and serves as the volunteer coordinator. She has also participated and taken the lead in the following activities: helped with picking up native plants from Mason, Michigan for the plant sale and milkweed to give away at the downtown Rochester Farmers Market, helped get plants ready to distribute for the farmers market. She has volunteered herself at the farmers market. She took the lead and obtained volunteers to plant a demonstration garden at the Rochester Hills Public Library, which hopefully this summer everyone can go by and check out. And she will continue to maintain and manage it. She has also helped plant pollinator plants at Heroes Point at the Rochester Fire Station, among several other activities. The pollinators are grateful to have her, and we are grateful to have her as a good neighbor in our community.
Very good, very impressive. Congratulations, Stephanie. Yeah, so congratulations to you. You richly deserve it, it sounds like. And again, all these great volunteers in our community really makes our community a much better place. Stephanie, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you, everybody. And thank you so much, Rachel, for the nomination, and to Marilyn Trent for all the work that she does for Rochester Pollinators. It's a fantastic group to be a part of. And I just encourage everyone to add some native plants into their yard. It really does make a huge difference. Even just one or two will bring those native pollinators back. And so I'm so proud that I can be part of this mission. So thank you. And thank you to the council.
Great. And thank you for your service to our community, and welcome to our council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. Congrats. Okay, next, moving right along is approval of the minutes, consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Sage, support by Councilmember Peterson. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is approval of the consent agenda. First is the consideration of a special event application from the DDA to hold the Junk in the Trunk event on June 19th and August 14th in the Upper Farmer Market Lot. Next is consideration of a special event application from Next Level Dance Center to hold their dance recital on Sunday, June 13th in the band shell. C is the consideration of a special event application from the DDA to hold Thursday night markets on Thursday, June 3rd through July 8th on 4th Street between Main and Walnut. D is consideration of special event application from Bethesda Church to hold Uplifting Music in the Park event on Saturday, June 26th, starting at 10 a.m. in the band shell. E is consideration of another special event application from West Middle School Choir Program to hold 2 choir concerts on May 18th and May 25th in the band shell. And F is a review of the current 2021 event calendar. Council.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson,
Support.
support by the Mayor Pro Tem Salvia. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. There's no old business or table items. We move on to public hearings. First, we have a public hearing and presentation regarding consideration of the 2021-2022 fiscal year proposed budget. We are going to have a presentation from administration, then we will open the public hearing, and then council can debate. So, Mr. City Manager.
All right. Anthony will actually, as our finance treasurer, actually do the presentation. But again, let me just start off and say that we do have a balanced budget this year, and proposed is a balanced budget for this upcoming year. So with that, Anthony, if you want to share your screen, and we practiced it earlier today. I think
right.
it's under 10 minutes.
Wow. All right.
Cue
Anthony.
taken. 10 minutes it is.
Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. All right. Is the share coming through okay?
It is.
Yes.
You're good.
Yes.
All right. Okay, good. Here we go. We're going to run through this. Speeding right along. Let me minimize some of the videos so I can see. And all right, great. Council, thank you. Tonight we have the second year now with COVID for our budget and our public hearing. As City Manager Wing just mentioned, we do a 3-year multi-year budget, and looking at the next 3 years, balanced on the year currently, balanced on the next one coming up, and then we start looking at some deficits further out in the years as we go along. And then I'm going to talk about some of that tonight, as well as a rescue plan update. For the current budget coming up now, starting July 1, our fiscal year is July 1 through June 30th. What are the big significant changes? Safer grants expiring for the fire department. That was a 3-year grant where we get 75% reimbursements in year 1 and 2 and 35% in year 3. We have just entered the 3rd year, and it will end in February of next year. So it'll be during this budget year. The auto parking fund obviously is taking a bit of a hit and has taken a hit. It is bouncing back around 15% or so down from what was pre-COVID, but that's still not back to full swing. So we still have an anticipated decrease that we'll have in the budget for that. Gas and weight tax and revenue sharing from the state, down about 110,000, though that fluctuates greatly. But I think we're going to see that more trending as workers in general are kind of getting this new flex work schedule. So the more telecommuting, remote working we see is less driving and less gas tax. So we don't expect that to, and the state doesn't see that bouncing back significantly to pre-numbers. On the expenditure increases, we'll talk a little bit later with showing where they are, but we have the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, which was a 3-year plan that has over $6 million in infrastructures from roads, sewers, water main, all proactive planning and making sure we get the biggest bang for the tax buck. Transfers from general fund to fund the roads, increased trash service contracts. We had many years. It's just that's the cost of the RFP, and that's the fees that we're going to have in the trash contracts as we move forward. Decreases, pension bonding down over $400,000 by bonding as well as pre-funding with Morgan Stanley and working on a plan that will get us fully funded with no additional, crossing fingers, contributions out of the general fund for the next 14 years as that time and amortization on the liability comes forward. Then we have the conclusion of the OPC debt service, which was 144 for the year. Real quickly, this is what we're looking at. So current year, we're good, estimated at over 500,000. Proposed, the plan all along had been, because we knew this grant council knew years ago and had been planning on it for the public listening, that this 300 that was planned to roll over some of the savings we've had from the grant for the 3 years to roll it forward to cover that next year as we work on a permanent funding solution to it. And then as we see here in the 22-23 and 23-24, that's the projected. There's applauding council and administration. When we originally were looking far out over a year ago, we were at about 1.2 million on the deficit. And that's the beauty on the multi-year budgeting. We were looking at that end year out and going, you know what, we're going to make some course corrections to take care of this. We're not going to let it just hit us blindly. And it hasn't. And we continue to be balanced as we chip away and make this right sized, which is how it's supposed to work. Real quick, this is, I won't go into detail. This is in the budget binder. So the public, if you open up the budget that's there, FYE 22 budget, you will see a lot of graphs. This just shows kind of where the general fund gets its revenue, 2/3 from taxes, and then how does it expense all of the revenue that comes in. So we see that we got police and fire, about 44% together, public works 14%, and appropriations to other funds. That's where we see things like transfer to local streets, infrastructure, balancing out the major streets and local streets fund. That's what the big bulk of all of the tax dollars are going to. Jumping forward to this is the fund balance policy for the discretionary general, which is general fund and all the revolving funds that go with it. This green bar right here is the dark green on the left is the 6.365 million. That's the minimum. It can be any amount over that, but we don't want to dip below it. And if we do, then it's usually strategic. There might be a reason, and then we'll work on getting back, get it back to above the minimum, but we haven't dipped below it. And even if we look at the 3 years out, including the requests that were at the prior meeting, we see that we are still at the end of the 3rd year above the minimum. And it does decrease each year, as noted in the prior slide, just because of the way we are approaching it, reducing those deficits and shrinking that down. I'll post this on the website with the budget. I'll post this as a separate link in case anyone wants to see what roads are in that over $6 million infrastructure revolving fund 3-year road, water, sewer plan. It highlights them on this sheet here, and anyone can go and look and pull it up and look in more detail to see what their streets are and if they're what they're looking at for those projects. Bond expense, we've been proactively bonding at low rates to get things like the pension bond paid. the capital improvement bond for the DPW and facilities paid. And this is just showing the kind of the cumulative payments as we go along right now. Shared revenue loss and revenue sharing. This is new to council. This has not been seen before. The regular graph with the orange and blue is our normal constitutional revenue sharing and statutory revenue sharing. This kind of slashed yellow orange box is the lost revenue sharing. This is a decrease that the state has put, has interpreted and has not sent as much out as they used to local municipalities. And if we look at what the impact is, it's about $500,000 a year. So it is significant if it had been shared and continued, but it is what it is. But we like to keep that in mind and hoping that working with our reps, we can get that tweaked or even starting to get that back up a bit. Act 51 funding, that's what I'm talking about with the remote workers, less driving. Here's COVID, dip down, and then we're going to kind of bounce a little bit back up, but not as high as it was before. Taxable value, 76% residential. In this climate with COVID, it's impacted everyone. There isn't anybody that hasn't been impacted. But as far as values go, commercial closed businesses, that they've seen a substantial hit on those revenues. Some of them just by being closed for months and months and months. So that is in this case to Rochester being more residential has kind of like investing in your investment portfolios. You want a nice kind of allocation so that if anything impacts one of them, you kind of are buffered with the others. General millage, this is just over time, city general. Here's the 0.75 that was dedicated and enacted by council back for 18. So we see the normal general operating millage, 11,5964, and then the dedicated infrastructure of the 0.75. This 0.3164 is what's coming up. So OPC had, the Older Persons Commission had the vote for their millage at 0.32. With the reduction in Headley starting for this July, it'll be 0.3164. So that debt has been paid off. So that ended in the current year. And then we just have their operating as we roll forward on that. This is showing all the city services and what your tax bill goes to. This is a very interesting slide. We get a lot of comments, I know I do, about, we pay a lot of taxes. We pay a lot in the city. We pay a lot in general. For the city services, every dollar that is paid on your tax bill, it's only 37 cents of that goes to the city to pay for the DPW, the infrastructure, police, fire, sanitation, the trash, the library, all of the funds that go in general fund is done for 37 cents out of every dollar. The rest is what's on the right side of the graph here. It's the schools, education, Oakland school voted debt, operating, Oakland County, et cetera. That is the bulk of the taxes are those entities. Millage comparison, this just shows where we are in compared to other communities. And this is the more important one. Some communities are a la carte, so there's millages for everything. Rochester is more of an all-inclusive, so it's a larger millage, but it covers everything. There's not separate items on the tax bill. So this graph shows, okay, if you had the same house and you wanted to look at, and no matter where you lived, you want fire, police, EMS, you want water and sewer, and you want trash services, just those basic things. We took that for all the communities here and we convert those into a millage to say, if you just paid a straight millage, what does that look like for those essential services? And this is how Rochester ranks, being in the top 4 right here, compared to the other communities, only being beat out by Troy, Novi, which they have a lot different kind of tax structure and base than we do, but it's very efficient in Rochester in comparison.
Anthony, I like that slide very much.
This one here?
Yes, I like that one better than the previous one.
That's why I like to always show them, because it looks, our millage rate is so high. Well, it includes all those things. So that's
Absolutely.
we like that. So it's very important that, you know, that same house, just in those different communities, you're still going to pay more. One thing that's come up that's been inquired is, okay, we had the American Rescue Plan that was passed. What does that mean to Rochester? We're waiting to see what the final numbers are. Right now, it's supposed to be somewhere approximately 1.3 million, but to be determined. And then that's given in two allocations. One we should see roughly in June if they meet the deadline and nothing is interrupted. And then the next one would be a year after that, so the following year. But we'd at least get half. These are the projects that we've identified through workshops and with administration of things that qualify. They have some restrictions on what you can spend it on. The 4 items of auto parking revenue replacement, so that doesn't have to eventually come down from the taxpayers, the general fund tax dollars that can be supplemented through that. There's a portion of the All Abilities Park that could be covered. The water storage and pumping station that we've been working on with Shelby, kind of looking at getting our own water storage tank to try to keep the rates low and get the pumping station going for pressures. And then also looking at a future forward nonprofit grant program. City tax dollars are not allowed to be spent on things like giving it away to nonprofits. However, in the ARP plan, they actually allow, so they enable us to be able to do those sort of things. So we can actually set up like a grant program for nonprofits and help them with their missions. And as City Manager Wing has experience in other communities, it helps them kind of multiply their dollars out as we go. So that is the end of that presentation. I hope I hit my 10-minute mark, and I will stop sharing and turn it back over.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any correspondence?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so now we'll open up the public hearing. And at 7:22, the public hearing is open. Are there any comments? Brian, are you running this tonight?
Yeah, none. I'm not seeing any right now.
Okay. So at 7:22, the public hearing is closed. Mr. City Manager, are we looking for, this is first reading and adoption?
So we'll actually have the adoption on the May 10th. And that's when I do a brief, a little bit more in-depth and looking at the various departments and go through. So tonight, basically, it's the public hearing, and then we forward it on. During the public hearing discussion or afterwards, if there are any of the requested items that council would like us to remove, today would be the time to tell us so that we could finalize the proposed budget for adoption.
Very good. Councilmember Albrecht.
I just wanted to commend City Manager Wing, Anthony Mojo, and Marcy on all the work they've done. I have the privilege of being on the budget committee with them, and the tools they use, the ability to look into the next 3 years, some of the things we've done, like the bonding for pension, have really helped the taxpayers maximize our tax dollars. I know we will continue to do that, but the tools they've come up with have really benefited the city for long-term planning, not just year-to-year kind of budgeting. So my thanks to the 3 of them and all the work they've done on this year's budget.
Very good. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you. I was just going to echo Councilmember Albrecht. I think our administration did a great job, and I'm really pleased that we are ending this fiscal year with a balanced budget, and that's something to be very proud of.
Very good. Further discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would like to thank administration and the finance for a very fine budget book this year. As stated, the tools that have been given to us have been outstanding. And I actually, I don't know if it's appropriate, Mayor, but after reviewing the information given to us at the budget workshop, and going through the little matrix that they gave us to look at some of these things, and knowing that we have the SAFER grant expiring, even though we have a balanced budget, I feel that the most logical decision right now would be to utilize that expired OPC millage of 0.019 and dedicate that to the public safety / fire, and have it as restricted, just like we do with the mills for the 0.75 mills for the infrastructure. So I would like to make a motion to do that, so we can actually plan moving forward, knowing that one of the biggest obstacles we are facing is going to be covered. And we can actually then really dive in and see what else we can do to be more fiscally responsible in the future with the city taxpayer dollars.
So that's dedicating the OPC money towards the fire.
Yeah, 0.19 mils, correct. Because it seemed to make the most sense in the budget matrix.
Yeah, Mr. City Manager, can we do that? Can you?
Yeah, council could do it. You would need a second and then discussion. Right now, what's proposed in the budget, the proposed budget is actually dedicating that towards infrastructure, specifically roads. So, but today's the day that council can give staff direction to make any adjustments.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor by Councilmember Peterson to dedicate the OPC millage that's coming undone, to move it to public safety.
So we would take a general fund and make it a restricted fund.
So right now, yeah. So right now it's technically falling off, and instead of falling off, City Council, in essence, yes, it's open to a general fund. Each year, Council would actually have to rededicate it towards that purpose, because there's not a charter amendment to do that. This is actually just kind of like putting a sticky note on that specific dedicated amount, which is the 0.19 is being discussed. The same thing that council does with that 0.75 every year with the roads component.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Harrison, question, comment?
Thank you. I do have a comment. To Councilmember Peterson's point, I think that, you know, it's so smart to be looking ahead to try and fill this gap for our public safety. I'm not sure, being on the budgeting committee, that 0.19 would be enough to cover the deficit, I guess, that we see once the SAFER grant expires. And I do know that we have a real need to do road and infrastructure projects in our community. And I think that what we've discussed on the budgeting committee, I felt like it made sense to roll that into our infrastructure budget, because we can do some wonderful projects with that money. And I know that it wouldn't make up the difference that we need once that grant expires, is my understanding.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Okay, there's not a second to the motion. Is there further discussion on this issue? Councilmember Bavacqua.
Just, I just want to point out that there was concern over surprise motions in a previous meeting, and want to make that note.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think we're all pretty focused on making sure that we fund the fire department, but I guess to me, I'm just unclear on the logistics in terms of a millage that is ending and kind of what council's authority is to do around it. So again, to Councilmember Bavacqua's point, I'm going to go with the recommendation that the budget committee has made.
Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson.
All right, thank you. But during our budget workshop, these were all listed as potential. Nothing was stated as being anything. And this is actually the time that we're allowed to make a motion regarding what we see in this budget before it is actually voted on. So there's no surprise. We could have done any of these things on here taken them away, as the city manager had stated. So, and honestly, right now, we already have 0.75 going to infrastructure. Our deficit is because the SAFER grant is ending. I understand we need roads, I understand we need infrastructure, but I need public safety here in my city. I don't want us to go into 6 months down the road and then wonder how we're going to do this when this expires, because we're going to need a solution to this here. And this is a start of a solution. And then we can take the other objectives that have come out of this budget workshop that we just had on this list that's in the packet, and see what else we can do to maximize the tax dollar in the community. But this is one of the biggest holes we have. And I felt that it was, after reviewing everything and playing with the matrix that was given to us, it made perfect sense to start this ball rolling with monies that are basically ours to reallocate how we'd like to each year.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yes, so thank you, Mayor. Nobody's going to argue that public safety is important. I think the fact that we are, the motion was not seconded, was not an indictment against our concern for public safety as a council and as city administration. I would echo what Councilmember Harrison had to say. I would defer to the city administration's recommendation for the use of the 0.19 mills, or $142,000, 500, that be applied to infrastructure and roads, as they had suggested. To Councilmember Peterson's points, she's correct. Yes, we know that as a council, as city administration, we have to address the expiration of the SAFER grant, and we know that we have other tools and levers we can pull. But for tonight's discussion, I would support city manager and finance committees, or the finance director's thought to use this money towards the roads and infrastructure.
Okay, further just
Yeah,
Councilmember
Mayor.
Peterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I didn't know, I've never heard from city manager or city administration or finance that this was something in stone. These were all recommendations that came down from the budget committee, and these are all estimated as to what we were looking at. And our job was to go through this and actually see what we can actually do to do that. So if we're going to take that extra money and put it all towards infrastructure, we're still leaving a hole. I mean, we're leaving a hole in something that's very important. And I have not heard of all the projects that we're supposed to be doing with all this extra money. So I'm hard pressed to vote for the budget with these things being allocated in this form without really having the details of where all that money is supposed to be spent on. So I was just trying to simplify one thing and make it a little bit easier moving forward with one of our biggest deficits that we have. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything further on the budget? I would just say this is a balanced budget for this year, and that's what we're voting on. We all understand that the future budgets need to be looked at, and we're in the process of, as we said in our last budget meeting, working on these things, discussing them. We're going to have budget meetings and figure out, but our public safety is well-funded, will be well-funded in the future, and I'm sure this council is going to take care of that in future budgets. But this budget right now is balanced, and I believe has the support of the city council. So,
Mayor, one more comment then, please.
Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you. So what I would request then from this point forward for future budgets, that we as a council sit together as all 7 of us and discuss this, so we all know everything that is fully being discussed to make the appropriate decisions. Because these small subcommittees, when it comes to the budget like this, I think is really doing a disservice to all the other council people who are not on here. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I will just say all subcommittees give recommendations to the city council. There is no decision-making made in any subcommittees. Everything that we have talked about, everything is voted on and looked on by the entire city council.
I understand that, but we're not part of the full discussion, Mayor. And I think it's necessary for us, and that's why I was elected to be a part of discussions, and I am not.
I think we were all elected and we've all been participating in many different discussions. Okay,
No.
so next we move on to, Mr. Manager, is that all we need?
That's all we needed tonight. Thank you.
Okay, next we're on to legislative deliberation. First is an ordinance amendment to Chapter 50 Telecommunications, Article 4, Small Cell Wireless Facilities, Section 50262 and Section 50256 of the Code of the City of Rochester to require uniform labeling information, add language requiring radio frequency emissions testing and monitoring by service providers. Second reading adoption, that is a bit of a mouthful, I would say. This council.
Say, Mayor, if I could have Attorney Crott and I actually did adjust after having some conversation. So if I could have Attorney Crott maybe just provide a quick update.
Welcome, Attorney Crott.
Good evening. So yes, Manager Wing is correct that after the last city council meeting, Verizon folks and Blaine and I, we had a discussion and listened to some additional concerns with the actual language, not necessarily concepts, but the language that they could bring, and they wanted to update and suggest alternative languages in certain areas, not regarding the labeling, but with the section subsection J. They did provide some suggested language, which I felt was consistent with what the city is trying to accomplish. And things such as, if you recall, we have information in there about if the city wants to go ahead and test one of their facilities, that we can do that at any time. And if there's a problem, we would let them know and they have to take care of it or shut it down. And so, conceptually, they said, well, that's, they wanted to make sure that, they educated us a little bit on, there's tools out there that anybody can buy on Amazon that might have a reading that wouldn't be really a true reading. So we added information in there, such as the equipment and methodology recognized by the FCC in the industry, not just a piece of equipment that you can buy on Amazon, but people who actually know what they're doing to test these. And we thought that was actually a fair clarification. So we put information in that. We did suggest that if they had a list to provide to the city of that, that pool of qualified persons to do that, and we made sure we inserted that it was unaffiliated with any provider. It needed to be neutral, and they fully understand that, and that's in there. So some of the language was tweaked a little bit. I think it's still what the city was looking for with compliance based. In fact, they recommended the caption be radio frequency compliance. So everything, any of the changes were geared towards compliance with FCC standards. And I know that I see at least one person from Verizon if there was any questions, but I think the ordinance amendment still reads as appropriate. And I think that the next step, if City Council wishes to proceed, is to move it for second reading and adoption.
Very good. Councilmember Bavacqua.
I just have a question on the blue lettering in the section 5262. Why is that blue?
Well, I will check because I don't have it blue.
Oh, okay. It's showing up as blue.
I think that must have been redlining of redlining. And so when it came over, it must, because on my version, and I printed off the.
I don't have any blue.
I don't have any blue, but.
Mr. Bavacqua, maybe it's your printer or something.
No, I just pulled it off the website just before the meeting. This is what's on the website currently. I guess my question then is to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. the parts I see in blue, in the first sentence, when it talks about shall include language, it's and shall only include language. Is only still in there, or has it been redlined?
Yes, it's in the version that I have in front of me.
Okay, and then the very ending, the last few words, that only utilizes black lettering, that's in there as well still.
That's correct. In fact, now those were actually older changes that we, when we did that, that was language that we made better for the city, because the way it was before, like you pointed out, shall include language. I think there was a recommendation that was an encompassing versus a limiting statement without the only. So we did put that in there. So you can rest assured that the language that I have in front of me includes both of those city beneficial or more strict statements. So that's a good question. That language has been in there, so that must just be a red line of a red line at some point.
I just wanted to make sure that wasn't dropping off, and if that's the case, I'll make a motion to move this forward.
Motion by Councilmember Bavacqua, support by the Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, this is, I believe, to be very important legislation for our residents. Many residents have asked for this and have followed this. And so I just want to thank administration for continuing to work on this. And I think the adjustments that have been made, are appropriate for the businesses that are going to be held to this. So I think it's a good piece of legislation. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have one question on this. Is there a policy or standard for informing residents if these fail to comply with the standards for omissions and they have to shut them down? Is there any way that we'll notify the people who might be affected?
Well, there's no language specifically. I think how it would work is if there was an identified issue with one of the pieces of equipment, in speaking with the carriers, I believe that what would happen is if it's not an immediate fix, it would actually swap out the facility right away. And it is certainly in the provider's best interest to keep everything running smoothly and quickly to swap out. We hadn't thought about if there's if the network goes down, for instance, if there was an issue with one of the facilities that rendered service not to be effective, I guess people would know that. I'm not sure we had baked in any thought of a notification, but if there was but I could easily see that if there was if a provider X had a facility that went down, it was going to go down for a bit. I think the city's e-blast saying if there was especially if there was a health issue, which we wouldn't expect, but I think it would be more of a provider service issue. So I think that would be, I think that's how the administration would handle that.
Yeah, if I could just add, if there's a health issue, we do have our higher level, our emergency alerting that send out a text message, an email message, and a voice message to our residents. We can geocode it, geofence it to a specific area. If it's more of a service outage, I assume it would be the provider actually providing that sort of information.
Okay, because my thought is more if the facility is not in compliance and the radio levels are high, because that's, I think, what the discussion has been around is concern over some of our residents have concern over health. So if they have 15 days to, deactivate the facility to become in compliance, it would probably be a good thing for our residents to know that this is operating at a higher level than approved by the whatever.
Yeah, talking with, I guess, the two providers, and I think a third one previously, they would want to get their unit in compliance as quickly as possible. The 15 days was more for really it's equipment or hardware or other things, but their intention really is to get it in compliance as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Thank you. Next is consideration of an ordinance amendments to section 404 and 406 of the Rochester zoning code regarding non-conforming uses. Second reading and adoption.
Motion to accept, to move this, the consideration of ordinance amendments to section 404 and 406 to second reading and adoption.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht,
Support.
support by Councilmember Bavacqua. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
No.
Sage,
Yes.
Thank you. Next, C is approval of resolution condemning hate crimes, hateful rhetoric, and hateful acts against Asians and Asian Americans, encouraging Rochester residents to report hate crimes and harassment to the proper authorities.
Mr. Mayor, I have received public comment regarding 9C. Would you like me to read that now?
Yes, is it not too long?
Yep.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
It was just, it was expressed that it would be preferred to clarify the term rhetoric and that it was a broader statement against hate towards any people of any kind.
Very good. Council, Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to approve this resolution. I really am grateful that administration brought this to council. The reason that this is a focus on the Asian American community right now is because we're seeing the rise in hate crimes within the Asian community. And it's very disheartening. If you listen to the news at all, you know, the backlash that this community has seen is on the rise since this pandemic has started. We've always known that anti-Asian sentiment has existed even before the pandemic, but now I feel worried about my friends and my colleagues as more and more hate crimes are being reported and talked about in the news media. And this resolution, I feel, is just a very small act to say that we hear you and we're standing by you. So I appreciate council considering this and hope that we can all stand in support of our friends in the Asian American community.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Harrison, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Discussion, Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So in regards to the public comment that was given, I too think that rhetoric needs to be defined or changed. And I also do feel that everyone should be entitled to the same treatment. I know this is things and happening in our world today are not pleasant at all for anyone. And I do think that it's more discriminatory to single people out than keep us collective. Thank you.
You're good. Further comments? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
I'm not comfortable, no.
Sage,
Yes.
Okay, next on to reports on regular business is received the quarterly financial report. Anthony, or is that you?
Anthony.
Anthony, welcome back.
Been a long time.
Mhm.
I will make this brief. Some of the info is shared and duplicate from the budget presentation. So we'll just hit a couple of quick highlights if that's okay. And if there's any questions, we can just run from there. COVID obviously continues. Hopefully you can see the PDF screen here. Continues to be the big talk about what's going on and what's the impact to the city. And this is just a demonstration of over time and as of 4/3 at 844,000 to the negative. And that's including the offsets from grants as well. and how this looks over time as we peak down to about $1 million, surge of money from CARES Act and other relief and grants, and then continue to go and move downwards. There is still just under 200,000 I have outstanding right now that's coming in, so that hopefully within the next month or two, we'll be able to receive those funds. Just looking at what it looks like per fund is the second page here, just to show how the revenue impacts each of the different funds. And there we go. There are no reds. We've been monitoring and looking at each of the expenses as we move along. Most are just transferring from year over year, with like the SRF, for instance, which is last fiscal year rolled over and wrapping up in this year. And then, as was discussed in the budget presentation public hearing about the auto parking fund needed some relief, and those items there as we're watching it and looking for grants and waiting for the American Rescue Plan dollars to come in. And I will not jump too crazy into the detail here, but this is the parking fund right now, which is why we keep talking about it. And anyone in the public that is wondering why that keeps coming up, it's because it's one of the biggest impacted funds of the city. It is the most impacted in the city. So we want to make sure to keep monitoring it and paying a close eye and attention to that. All the bonds and payments are on track. And then, as we know, as we get towards the end of the year, if that American Rescue Plan dollars don't come in, there will be some amendment requests for some general fund transfers. But at this time, we're just holding steady and hoping that that does come in June. So if there's any specific questions, I'll just turn it back over to you, Mayor, and if that's all right.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Finance Director Maggio. So one comment and one question. So one is on interest, noticing that all of our interest is less than 1%. And you've done a great job managing through this, and just really the expectations in terms of forward-looking interest rate. Everything that I see from many economic sources is that they will continue to be below 1% through 2023. So we're just going to hang on to our cash, but we're not going to be making a lot of money on it. And then secondly, a question on parking, the red item. So I noticed that fines were up 183%. Is that because we've issued more fines, or is that the way we report it? Budget versus reporting?
That's the budget versus reporting. So we had done some amendments due to COVID to drop the fines and everything down. And then we had since everything had opened back up and that all continued again, it's then been surpassing that.
Okay, so fines aren't 183% higher than normal. They're
Correct.
probably more in line with what is normal fine. So it's not like we're going out and fining everybody since we're not getting parking levy.
That is a great point. That is absolutely not the case. We are still down from pre-COVID fines. It was just higher than what the amended one is. That is a great point to bring up. Yeah, we're not going out fine happy and going crazy on anything like that.
Okay. I would also like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Sage. Discussion.
Just a couple, Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure, can we actually just note that in here that the money we received from the parking fund, I mean, I know it shows that it came from the DDA, but it really doesn't stand out to where, I mean, that's why it shows that we're doing so well with that and have a balanced budget. Otherwise we wouldn't. So thank you.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Thank you. Next on to discussion, and I would say this should probably say, and potential approval of Beaumont transport and training agreements. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, I'll start off, and then our fire chief, who actually has worked on, along with our attorney, on these various agreements and our partnership with the Beaumont Health System. The fire chief over the last, I'll probably say 6 months, and has updated council a few times on really helping us fill in some of our coffers or plans and strategies on how to fill in where we lost when we had some changes with Crittenton Ascension, when we've made some changes with transportation. And so the chief had looked to alternatives, and one of the ones that he came up with was this overall, there's a partnership agreement for training, and then there's also this transport component. So since the fire chief did the heavy lifting along with our city attorney, Chief John, if you want to speak.
Sure. Thank you.
Welcome, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, how are you tonight?
Good. Welcome.
So about 8 or 9 years ago, we started doing transport through a partnership with Crittenton Hospital, now Ascension. About 1.5 years ago, they started to go ahead and use a company that they owned. So our transports are down significantly, but we see them starting to come back. They're about 1/3 of what we had been doing. We were doing about 500 transports a year, generating about $150,000 to $180,000 a year in doing transports, which was then put back into the city budget. The thing to know about transports is that those are, we do those at our convenience. In other words, if we're out on other calls or servicing the city, we don't do the transports. We do those when we have, when we can go ahead and fit it into the schedule and fill that need. So with the Ascension going their different way, I always try to run the fire department like a business, and needed to find where we could generate some additional income. And as we went through the budget, as council knows, that became very important this year as we're trying to keep a balanced budget. And so I found an opportunity to go ahead and work with Beaumont Systems. They were in need of doing transports along with special transports for pediatrics over to Royal Oak Beaumont. And so we saw this as a potential opportunity for the fire department to go ahead and replace that call volume or those transports that we were doing for Ascension. As we sat down with Attorney Crotton, he can jump in also. We wanted to make sure that the city always had the option of being able to do the transports when we had the staffing and the availability to go ahead and do it. In other words, we were never forced. We would never go ahead and do a transport that would then endanger any of our residents, either from fire or from EMS. Again, it came down to wanting to fully utilize our equipment and our staff to go ahead and recover some of the lost funding. We're anticipating if we do this, we should see another $125,000 to $150,000 of revenue, hopefully, as we get into the transports. As was pointed out a couple of times tonight, the SAFER grant comes to an end next February. And what I was hoping to be able to do is to go ahead and get that income built back up in the business at Beaumont, so that we were able to contribute more to the city's bottom line and to fill any of the gap that happened to be there. The other piece that we worked with the hospital on was all of our licensed EMTs and paramedics are required to do continuing education. This continuing education that we can now get as part of our agreement with the Beaumont system, not only to go ahead and get our continuing education credits, but also to improve the quality of our EMTs and our paramedics as they work with the educational group at the Beaumont Hospital Group. So before you is for your consideration to look into executing this agreement. We do have, I believe it's a 90-day out, and maybe Attorney Crock can comment on that, so that if we ever see that it doesn't fit the city needs, it's easy to go ahead and get out of. And I'm hoping to be able to fill in some of the needed budget from the shortfalls with this agreement.
We got Attorney Crock. Did you want to make a comment?
Yes, so that was, Fire Chief did hit on one of the questions that was asked of us, which is regarding the termination, and what if the city decides to go in a different direction with their service, their ambulance service, and, you know, are we locked in any fashion? And, you know, this agreement, I liken it more towards, while it's in place, this is what happens, and this is how it happens. But the term, it can be terminated by the city or by the hospital system at any time with 90 days notice. That's not any for cause. It's not any, it's just at will. And with to highlight what the fire chief said is, you know, somebody might think, well, 90 days, that's a long time. Well, also keep in mind that the fire department never has to accept a particular transport. So if there was a reason to not provide those services sooner than 90 days, then the fire department would just decline those transports. So, you know, this was a project I know Fire Chief holds dear, both the training, which I thought was a great opportunity to improve the skill set of our employees, and also the transportation, which we have seen as a win-win throughout this contract process. There's been quite a few people from Ascension and Crittenden that have been involved in this, from their head people to their legal department, and this has been going on for quite some time. And I think the two agreements that we're able to put before you are good agreements that are really of no risk to the city.
Very good. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, thank you for bringing this before us. I do remember the first time you brought to us the opportunity through Crittenden. It wasn't a formal agreement, but yet we benefited heartily from it. And it kind of gave us a path forward. So I do have a couple questions, both to yourself and the city attorney. The training agreement offers a 30-day termination notice, whereas the transport agreement offers a 90-day. Is there any reason why there's a difference there?
I would have to yield to the city attorney on that one, council person. I'm not 100% sure why we agreed on why we ended up at 30 instead of 90, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Mr. City Attorney, did you want to comment?
Sure, I'll just comment. That really wasn't a point of discussion, but I would say that the term of the agreement itself for the training agreement is a 2-year versus a 5-year. So maybe that's more of a relational termination. Again, this one is 30 days with or without cause. You know, if it's not working for either side, it's just going to end. Is how that's going to work. You know, whether it's 30 days, because we don't have to send our people to them to get trained. This agreement itself is purely for the city's benefit.
So, okay, so my second question is, when we did the Crittenden agreement, the handshake, if you will, initially, didn't we get compensated directly from the hospital? We didn't have to go through the insurance provider? Or am I mistaken?
Yeah, the hospital from Crittenden Hospital was never the person who paid the bills.
Okay.
The bills have always been paid by the insurance company.
Okay, so that's the same here for these.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
So when I'm reading through the transport agreement, it specifically states, yes, we have the luxury of choosing to accept or deny a transport. But what it also states is that we will service the entire Beaumont health system network. So here's my concern. Of the 9 or so, I just did a simple Google, and the closest location is 15 minutes away, Beaumont, Troy, right? The furthest away would likely either be Beaumont, Wayne, or Beaumont, Trenton, or Beaumont, Taylor at a good hour. So we have 3 medical vehicles. And to do a transport, we need 2 people in that vehicle. We keep 6 people on a shift. So we would literally be depleting our resources, both physical and human by 1/3 to do this. I'm questioning this because I don't have a comfort level yet.
Well, Mr. Councilperson, I would never take a transport that would take us out of the area down to those places. When I understand what the agreement says, but we have the right of refusal. And if they ask us to go to downriver to go ahead and do a transport, we would turn that down. I'm never going to go ahead and put a single citizen in Rochester at risk to go ahead and do the transports.
So the estimates you bring us of $150,000 to $185,000 might be a bit overstated then, because literally you're saying you would just cherry pick to the Troy location and that's it.
Well, I have a pretty good idea of how many patients we take to the Beaumont systems. We take 50% of our transports to the Beaumont systems as opposed to Ascension. They're split almost 50-50. The majority of our transports come from people coming back into our town to our senior citizens or to the Rochester Hills senior citizens. And that was the same thing that happened in Ascension at Crittenton Hospital. Really not much difference between the two. The relationship that we're building is with the person who does the scheduling at the Beaumont Hospital. They handle the Beaumont Troy. They don't handle all of the downrivers and everyone else. We are just one partner that is into the system to go ahead and try to pick up these transports. In fact, I feel very comfortable about the numbers that I've given you and also about the ability to properly service our citizens.
But that's the other variable, right? So when we go to pick up the patient, we don't know what the ultimate end drop-off point is. So
we absolutely do. They call us and they say, we would like to take Steve Sage back to his home in Rochester.
Okay. So at what point will Beaumont get frustrated with us when we literally question them for all the opportunities and we just pick the ones we want?
Well, we've had those discussions right from the very beginning when we started this process, and they were very much interested in making us one of their providers to go ahead and to fill in. They, like every other hospital, has been having a need to go ahead and have medical transports. In some cases, they're having patients wait 4 to 6 hours to get a private ambulance company available. Again, we saw this as an opportunity to go ahead and service at 50% of those people, about 700 or so people that we take down to Troy Beaumont on a yearly basis. Many of them come back into the city. So we see that as a service on both ends.
But there's no assurance to the citizens of Rochester that you won't take a transfer for something in Grosse Pointe or...
Well, then what you're saying then, Mr. Councilperson, is you don't trust my judgment. And my judgment...
Absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I read the agreement and it includes the entire Beaumont Health System network.
I understand what it says, but it also says that we have the ability to go ahead and turn the transports down. Sir, what I'm trying to go ahead and do is I'm trying to fill a gap in at the fire department and to the city from a cost structure standpoint without adversely affecting the citizens of Rochester. And this is one method to be able to go ahead and do that. I'm doing my level best to provide the best services to our citizens at the best cost. And this is one method to be able to do that.
Okay. And I appreciate your opinion. And you know what? I was elected to represent the citizens, and I feel it's a risk to them to enter into this agreement because we would put ourselves in jeopardy potentially, and we can't guarantee that we won't.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia?
I'd like to yield
I'm sorry, you cut out.
to Chief Steve. He had his hand.
Mr. Police Chief, welcome.
Thank you. I just would like to say, just from the dispatch side of this, because I've kind of seen how this works, because we're the first segment of any of these transports that we've done with Ascension Providence, and I'm sure the same system would be the same going forward. the hospital calls us, gives us the details of the transport, where it is, where the person's being picked up from, where they're going to be taken to. We contact the fire department, ask for permission to go ahead with that transport. Most of the time they say yes. Occasionally they have said no. A number of factors can play into that no decision: where the patient's going, what type of other activities are going on at the time, whether it be training or other runs and calls for service. So all those things are factored in when they notify the dispatcher back of whether we're going to take that transport or not. This, I guess, to the fire chief's point, this practice of selecting, or I guess, making sure that it fits in with the day's activities is an ongoing function in the way that transports are run today, and I'm sure would be run in the future. Hospitals, this is the way the hospitals work, and I don't think there's anything to believe that the Beaumont system is necessarily any greater or different than what was happening with Ascension Providence. They're used to a system of calling, and sometimes, whether it be a private ambulance or any ambulance, can take that call, or they can or they can't, and they keep calling until they get someone who does.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Okay, so Chief, I like this concept, the concept of bringing additional revenue but I don't feel like we have the total picture here. Every time we turn the lights on an ambulance, there's cost involved. So do we know what the total cost is? I mean, Ascension is, 1 block out of our city versus Beaumont at a minimum is, 5.5 miles out of our city. I'm also not sure from a staffing standpoint, do we have enough paramedics to support this? I know we have EMTs. I don't know that we were going to review the staffing 2 years into the agreement. So I think we're probably due to do that. I'd also like to know the status of the ET3, which I believe was another revenue opportunity, a change in the model in terms of ambulatory care. So I really need some more information. I don't think we have the total picture here of the cost involved. I just want to make sure that we are providing the services for our residents, since we do have a full-time fire department. Thank you.
Further comment?
Yep, Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you. Well, first, I would like to thank Chief Cieslik for bringing another program to us to help the citizens of Rochester, and being here to help fill that gap. I know I was trying to fill the gap for you earlier too, so feel your pain at the moment. I understand everyone's concern. However, I think that this is a service that almost every community provides, and we also work amongst very well with our neighboring communities to take care of this. I don't see this as being something that is going to actually hurt us in a way financially at all. And it might not be the full amount that we receive based on different things, but it's not going to cost us either. It appears in this contract that they've actually given quite a bit to be able to help our own fire department with different, education, et cetera, the things that would cost us money to go and do. I think moving forward, if we really need to work collectively as a council to understand how all the dynamics of the fire department actually work a little bit better, especially with these programs, since we already had one. I think this one is actually a little bit better because there's an advantage for our own fire department and our staff. And like I said earlier, I think with this being one of our biggest obstacles that we are facing, we need to start in some direction. And I think this is a good direction to do so. So I'd like to make a motion to move this program forward so we can start having additional services for our own community and help our neighboring communities as well. Thank you.
There's a motion by Councilmember Peterson to adopt the Beaumont Transport and Training Agreement. Is there a second? Councilmember Albrecht, second or comment?
Both.
Okay.
I would like, I would support the motion, but I think Mayor Pro Tem Salvia had some questions that the chief probably should address before we have further discussion vote on this.
Mr. Fire Chief, do you have some of those answers or do you need time?
No, I have some of those answers, Mr. Mayor. I was waiting to see if there were any other comments. I was trying to be polite.
Well, thank you. Okay, Mr. Chief, Fire Chief.
Let's first talk about ET3. ET3 had been delayed because of COVID. We're back into a launching process with that. We have been working with our contact through Medicare and Medicaid for the ET3 program. So that's on track to start sometime in the next 2 to 3 months. The ET3 with the alternate destination will allow us to go ahead and take a patient based on a doctor's recommendation instead of to the emergency room, to go ahead and take the patient to an alternate source. One of the alternate sources could be a 24-hour emergency facility, or it could be to a doctor's office. That's part of ET3. As far as the billing for that, that's all at a set rate, already being prearranged with Medicare and Medicaid. It's at this time anticipated to be a very small portion of the calls that we're running based on the feedback that we're getting from our ET3 coordinator through our discussions. As far as staffing goes, the majority of these transports that we handle are basic transports. When they leave the hospital, they're typically going from the hospital back to a nursing home or back to a resident. And in those cases, those are basic transports that are handled with EMTs. One of the things that the transports allow us to do, even with the EMTs, is to work with them on their skills for taking blood pressures and vital signs from that standpoint. When we take a look at the ambulance, if you recall several months ago when we talked about replacing the one ambulance, my comment to you at that time was that we were working on this potential agreement with Beaumont, and that if it didn't come about, then when it came time to replace the third ambulance, I would be hesitant to look to replace it, because if we weren't doing the transports, we probably would not need that replacement ambulance. So there would be a savings from that standpoint. But also, when you take a look at the long range ambulance of that 8 to 10 year period of time, and the last ambulance was 10 years old, over the period at which we would generate the income, and it becomes someplace around $15,000 to $20,000 a year worth of the investment into the ambulance as far as the cost of the ambulance. I'm sorry, Councilperson or Mayor Pro Tem, was there a third question that you had there?
Yeah, how many paramedics do we have?
Right now we have 6 paramedics.
Anything further, Mayor Pro Tem, on those?
No, I mean, I still don't think we've taken a look at the total costs that are involved in this. We're quoting some expected revenues. I mean, I know that the charges are set, by Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, but I think we really don't know what type of revenue we're going to have. And I really don't think we've taken into account the total cost for this.
Mayor Pro Tem, we've been doing transports for Crittenton Hospital since 2010.
Right, I understand that. That's a block outside of the city district. So we're going to be putting more wear and tear on our ambulances.
Mayor Pro Tem, is there more information you need to?
Well, I think the full picture should be presented in terms of what is the cost versus the revenue. I just don't think we have all the information. I thought Chief would have given some more details in the presentation. which is why I would like to see it come back. But I know we have a motion on the floor, so I will yield from here.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, I guess the presentation tonight, I did not anticipate because we've been doing transports for over 10 years and that this was an extension of doing transports to the Beaumont system, that they would find a council to be supportive of it because of the revenue that was being generated and trying to go ahead and fill in the gap. So then that's my fault then if I was expected to do a full presentation on something that I thought was a simple agreement, that the same sort of operation that we've been doing for over 10 years with Ascension.
There's further discussion?
Yeah. Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, thank you. So, you know, and honest, during those past 10 years of doing this and sitting in many meetings regarding the transport, not always, even though that Ascension was right there, those were not all local, that they just stayed within our 3 miles. You know, I mean, our 3 square miles, those were actually all over the place because we did work to help with the neighboring communities with any type of transport that was needed. So I think moving forward, this is one of the best services that we've actually should be taken advantage of to help not only our own community, but to actually help the service that this fire department provides to everyone as a public entity. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Bavacqua.
I do think the Mayor Pro Tem makes a good point, discussing wear and tear on the vehicles. You might think that might not be such a big thing. It's just a little bit of time on the road. But when you consider the value of the vehicles, you know, it can add up. And it's nice that this would generate revenue, but $100,000, if you're going to take, you know, 3-4 years off the life of a vehicle, it gets eaten into pretty quickly. I guess I would be interested in seeing some sort of, you know, use and wear analysis in comparison to, you know, the kind of miles we were putting on them previously with the previous agreement and the estimated increase that we might see with this new agreement. You know, I'd like to approve something like this. I like the idea of generating revenue with the resources that we have, but I'd feel a little more comfortable if we could dig into it just a little more, and if we can hold off on this.
So I'd like to ask the Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you. I was just going to add that I appreciate the chief's initiative for looking for additional revenue resources. I think we've been talking a lot about the SAFER grant expiration, and I'm just really appreciative that you're, you know, constantly thinking about that budget and looking for new ways to help support the department. I think that evaluating how many ambulances we had, that discussion recently of do we need 3 as a community of, you know, around 14,000 people, is something that we can maybe look at again when it's time to get that or replace that 3rd ambulance. And that would be an appropriate time, I think, to look at the wear and tear that, you know, doing transports has on the vehicles. I think that it's important to keep our staff busy and our resources utilized. So I feel in support of this, but appreciate the questions brought by my fellow council members. I think that they're valid.
A suggestion is for the maker and the supporter is to table this for a meeting and allow some of these questions to be answered. Again, that's just a suggestion.
Well, I guess I would like to really know why though, because we are going to have the same wear and tear that we've had for the past 10 years doing transports in another hospital. And this one here actually gives us, this isn't just about money. This is a service that's being provided to the community as well. We have people from here that go to Beaumont. We have the training program and everything else that is being offered in this here. And I guess I have a question for the chief. Chief, is this something that they might be able to give to you in the future? Or is this something that they really are in need of now because of the state of the pandemic that we're in?
The problem is ambulance companies around the whole area cannot go ahead and provide the services. And it's not unusual for them to get a 4 or 5 hour wait time to go ahead and get an ambulance. You know, I was looking to go ahead and fill in the gap for this service, just the same as what we've been doing at Ascension. So, you know, we're still doing transports at Ascension at about a third of the level of what we've been doing. That's why I felt we had this 2/3 of an area that we could go ahead and pick up by providing these services at Beaumont. And, you know, Beaumont is a few more miles down the road. The nice thing is when we do transports, we're not running lights and siren in emergency. So it's not like, you know, 50 miles an hour and hit the brakes and have to stop and accelerate and do all those things. It's just kind of normal highway driving from what we do. And to answer the question in regards to when it does come time to replace that third ambulance, if we're not doing these transports, then there is no need for the city to have 3 ambulances. We would just have the 2 and not do transports at all.
Well, I have a concern though, Mayor, because, you know, we are a very growing community. I mean, we expanded our fire department for the safety of the people. That includes ambulances. I mean, this is all one big picture that I think that even with Beaumont being one of the biggest hospitals around with the highest number of COVID and different things that have been taking place, this is and to me, a dire need that we need to move forward with. I'm not comfortable waiting to go ahead and remove my motion for this because of the safety need that this provides to the community.
Okay. Councilmember Valacqua.
Just a question for Chief regarding the comment that we would not replace an ambulance if we weren't doing this service. Out of curiosity, how much on average will we be paying for one of these new ambulances?
Well, it would be somewhat similar to what we just paid at about $220,000, and they last about 10 years.
Okay, and the new ones, you said they have the ability to replace some of the underpinnings.
Yeah, so what we've done now, Councilperson, is we've gone to an all welded aluminum box, which can be changed. And the record right now is they've remounted it about 18 times. So the future ambulances that we would end up buying, we would keep the ambulance box and replace the truck, and the trucks probably run someplace between $50,000 to $70,000 for the future.
So we would need at least 2 years of making, well, at least 2 years of making revenue on this extended service via this contract to even pay for the first ambulance replacement.
Well, remember, we've been running this. We went to the third ambulance 10 years ago when we started doing the transports from the hospital. Before that, we had 2. When we went to when I brought the information to council about doing the transports, that's when we added the extra ambulance. It was a little bit smaller ambulance and a little bit less expensive, but that was all we needed to go ahead and do the basic transports that were needed. So the ambulance that we look to replace in 2 years has been providing transports now for the last 10.
Right, I guess. But my point is if we didn't replace it at all by not signing this contract, we would save ourselves $220,000 in 2 years.
And plus we would lose out on the potential revenue also.
But you just said it was gonna be $125,000 a year, so it's a break even.
You're right, it would be a break even, but then that ambulance would be around for another 8 years on top of that, generating another $1 million.
Okay, so Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one more question and clarification. I'm just looking to understand the staffing model, you know, especially in light of Chief, you said, hey, we added an ambulance when we added these runs to Ascension. Well, now we're adding another place that we're going to be driving to. To me, that says, I don't understand the staffing model. I mean, you said we have 6 paramedics. I don't know, is that enough staffing to have ambulances going this way, ambulances going that way? You know, I know you can turn down calls, but again, I just don't think you've presented to council the full package. I think this probably could be a great opportunity, but I just don't think we have all the information.
For the last year before, in the last year is when we stopped doing as many transports as we had been doing at Ascension. Prior to that, when we had the current staffing model, we were running almost 500 transport calls from Ascension on an annual basis. That number is now dropped down to about 100 to 125. So we were easily taking care of those 500 transports with the current staffing model that we had at the time. So again, what I'm trying to go ahead and do is to make sure that we're never running from behind the line, that we're always staying in front of the line with the income and the generation of the income to help support the fire department and making sure that the staff is utilized properly.
Chief Shettenhelm?
Yeah, I just, I don't know if it's a point of confusion on the manpower issue, but the paramedics, the 6 paramedics are not the ones that in the vast majority of cases are involved in the transport. So of the people that are working that shift, paramedics are staying behind to handle EMS calls within the city. The EMTs, the non-paramedic staff that are working that day are the ones that are taking the transport. So we're not, I guess, shorting the city of the highly trained paramedics to provide this service. So it's not just 6 people that are handling the transports. It's really a much larger number of people within the fire department that are available to handle the transport.
Councilmember Sage, do you have a comment?
I did. Just another clarification question. So within the staffing model and questions, how many paramedics? We have 6 paramedics. How many EMTs do we have? And how many of each are on any shift on any one day? My understanding is it's 6 people on a shift, which I would assume you're doing. You have to have firefighters on there as well. So I'm just curious.
So they're firefighter paramedics or firefighter EMTs. We run on average, we typically run 2 firefighter paramedics on a shift and 4 firefighter EMTs on a shift.
Okay, thank you.
So I think it's time to call the vote. I would just like to say, I think this is a good concept. I appreciate the work the chief has done. Since this motion is going to be forced to be voted on tonight, I'm going to vote no, just because I think some more information can be brought back and other city council members would like some more information, and we typically honor that if we can. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
No.
Salvia,
No.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
No.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
No.
Okay, so I would say that
Your
we yes,
4-3.
correct. So I would say that we bring this back to the next meeting and try to answer some of the questions that were brought up. Okay, next on to discussion regarding outdoor dining platforms. Mr. City Manager, do you want to talk about that?
Yep, in council's packet is on page 118, the request, bless you, the request for 17 parking spaces for the placement of the outdoor dining platforms from the month of May through October. The DDA has worked with the fire department, the police department, and our PAC has forwarded that information of what the last 3 years usage would be. And so the police chief, along with our finance, have put together on page 119 of our packet the last couple years worth of, and then a 2-year average. And it's my understanding that the DDA has agreed to pay that amount, which is $19,148. And I see Christie's on here, and I see the chief on here as well. So maybe Chief or Christie, you might want to add some.
Christie, do you want to say something?
Sure, happy to. So it's up to you, Mayor. Sure. So after hearing the PAC's discussion, I took it back to DDA. DDA reviewed all the information, working with Chief Steve on figuring out exactly the meters that we would be using, which are the same ones that we used for the outdoor platforms in 2020, getting the averages of the revenue that those meters generated over the May through October period for both 2018 and 19. We couldn't use 20 data just because 20 was 20. So using that data, we brought that back to the DDA. And the DDA at their meeting last Wednesday night voted to pay that full amount to the city in exchange for allowing us to use those spaces to place the outdoor dining platforms again for 2021.
Councilmember Albrecht?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the DDA paying the parking fund for the use of the outdoor dining platforms.
Oh, I'll support that $19,000 ask.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht, support by Councilmember Peterson. Further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Hickson,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Thank you. Next, you receive an annual liquor inspection report of all on-premise liquor license establishments. Chief Shettenhelm.
Thank you. Each year we do go out, myself and the building official, and visit each of our liquor establishments that serve liquor by the glass. We also look to see if there's been any contacts with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for any violations that may or may not have occurred that year. And we also look to see whether the establishment is paid up on taxes and other fees to the city and county to cover their property and other tax payments. Before you is a report that shows the activity of each location. As you might expect, activity in general is down. Certainly no trends or concerns over one establishment over another this year. Also, as far as any issues with, from a building health and safety standpoint, violations that we noted were minor and were all corrected. The most frequent issue would be an exit light that went out or an emergency light that wasn't functional. And some of those were even fixed while we were there at some of the locations. Mr. Banda has reached out to the establishments that are behind in their taxes. And as you might imagine with the year that they've had, that's been one of the explanations. But they will continue to reach out to them and follow up as we go forward to attempt to get those payments made and to get them up to date.
Member Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I just had one question in the report. I appreciate it. So the Royal Park Hotel had a 43 incident extra patrol /checks. What is that?
Well, actually, during the time when the shutdown was in place, the Royal Park had notified us that they had very, very limited staffing. In fact, they had basically one person in the hotel, and they had asked us to provide them extra attention in the overnight hours.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Councilmember Albrecht.
I also had just a quick question, Chief. When you have the alarm calls, I saw 6 or 7 seems to be the average. Is there like a number they get, and then after that they're charged a fee for false alarms?
Correct. We work with the fire department. There is an alarm ordinance, in which case they do get, we call it a free alarm. And then warning notices go out. If they can show that there was a particular reason that the alarm went off, if they've shown that they've had someone come out and service the alarm and showed that there was some problem, there are ways to have those costs waived. But we do follow up on those as we get them.
Thank you, Chief.
Is there a motion to receive the report?
Motion to receive the report as presented.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia,
Support.
support by Councilmember Harrison. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Thank you, Chief, for that report.
Thank you.
Next is a discussion regarding additional sidewalk repairs within the Downtown Development Authority. Mr. City Manager.
Again, Christie's here, but my understanding is the DDA board with this current budget would like to move forward with about $150,000 worth of additional sidewalk fixes and repairs. But maybe Christie can provide some details.
Christie.
It's not actually with our current budget. It is through the capital fund that the DDA has been setting aside with the city over the last few years. Maybe Nick might want to pop on and he can talk a little bit about DPW with us last year when we did our downtown walk. We did a survey of all the areas that needed maintenance, including sidewalks. And Nick, you want to pick it up from there?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Bandit, welcome.
Well, thank you. So Jason Dickinson went out with Brian Hercom, our sidewalk guy, and they did a comprehensive look up and down after the walk, up and down every single sidewalk. And we just added, which bumped it up a little bit from 132 to about the mid-40s behind Sargent. Look for every tripping hazard, all the bricks that are raised, etc. And they recommended, because we have a great contractor right now in town, mobilize once, save a lot of money by doing it now, and knowing that the capital fund has been built up for things like this, we literally will have no issues on any sidewalk in the DDA district if this is approved. So, yeah, heavily in favor.
Right.
And it will happen quick, really quick.
And I think the DDA, we were kind of, with COVID, we wanted to be sure what we were doing, so we kind of were holding back on money and not approving it. But now it looks like maybe COVID's hopefully getting better slowly. So then the board decided to go ahead and allocate that money now. So I think this is a good move. It's infrastructure that we talk about. So the board was unanimous in it, and I would support this as well. So
Make a motion to approve.
Yeah, so motion by Councilmember Albrecht, support by Councilmember Peterson. Just further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Bavacqua,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Next, we receive a report from the various boards and commissions. First, as a report from the Principal Shopping District. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you. I think if Christie's still on, she might want to share this really exciting news, because I'd like to give the PSD a big congratulations. The American Express restaurant grant was submitted. Sorry. So the PSD won the American Express restaurant grant because of Foodie February. And maybe Chrissy can talk a little bit more about that, since I'm fumbling over my words.
Christy?
Sure, happy to. Yep. So this was a partnership through National Main Street Center and through American Express Shop Small, where we actually were able to enter to win anything that was related specifically to supporting restaurants during the first quarter. We already had our Foodie February on the books, and so we submitted that to American Express, and we were notified 2 weeks ago that we were selected as the first place winner nationally, which we were super excited about. So the first place winner, we were just featured on the National Main Street blog last week. I actually got to do a session for the virtual Main Street conference 2 weeks ago, and we'll be receiving $5,000 that we can use for support of our small businesses from American Express. So it was a great honor for us. We really didn't do Foodie February with the intention of actually winning something for it, because it was of benefit to our merchants. But the representative from American Express explained on the call that of all the ones that came in, she felt like ours had the most impact and really blew them away. So we were pretty honored by that.
So big congratulations to
Very good.
Christy
Yes.
and her team.
Congrats.
They've done great work,
Thank you
and
so
the
much.
great work continues with a couple of other updates we have. So June 19th and August 14th, you'll see requests coming to council. I think we approved tonight Junk in the Trunk, which is June 19th and August 14th. The Thursday night markets, we had some discussion if those wanted to continue or not, and we decided to move forward with those. We're looking at moving them to West and Fourth between Main and Walnut. We have 15 to 20 vendors already interested. There's natural breaks set up in that area, which is why we're considering it at this time. So that way everyone can be spaced out to be COVID compliant. We are looking to run this about roughly 6 weeks from June 3rd to July 8th. And then we have downtown Rochester Farmers Market. We're at a 300 people capacity. Ascension Hospital is sponsoring, and they're going to give away helmets for the opening weekend. We have a live concert scheduled and 500 tote bags to give away. That opening weekend is May 1st, so coming up, and we're hopeful to see everyone there. And Christy did give the financial report and did their budget ask. We have May 13th and 14th is Deck Art. Artists are turning in their artwork. It is being sponsored by T-Mobile. I thought this was really interesting. We have 422 artists that signed up to participate, even as far as like Florida. So it's been fun to see the outreach for this project. And then we had the outdoor dining platform. So thank you for supporting that this evening. We have some new ones being added, one by Beyond Juice being placed by the end of the month, and are looking at grant opportunities to fund a texting platform for additional advertising opportunities. So that's just being investigated right now in the committee. And we still have Christy here. Is there anything else to add?
Christy?
We just got notification yesterday that we received the micro grant from East Oakland County for the texting service.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
Spoiler, council's the first to know. I haven't even told PSC or DDA yet, so.
So now we'll be able to use this as an additional platform to send text message updates about our community events, all paid for through this grant.
Very good. Okay. And on to the City Beautiful Commission, Councilmember Harrison.
All right. Well, the City Beautiful Commission has been staying busy. We had such a beautiful celebration on Earth Day last Thursday. The tree committee, as well as the CBC, came out to see new trees being planted too in the Avon Cemetery. And we were able to have just a small socially distanced celebration for that. On the CBC, we also, that same day, actually, we had a site visit for a potential for a new native plant garden underneath the bridge along the Paint Creek Trail. So we were looking at that site to add some native plants. There's a little hill that goes up with some rock walls. There's a grassy area there now, and we would love to plant some native plants there. So we did a site visit to see if that was a good location. Native plants, just as a reminder to council, are so easy and low maintenance to plant and grow that this is not an additional stretch of our resources in the city or our Parks and Rec team. Because once they're planted and established, they maintain themselves. We're looking at a mural for the GBB building within the municipal park. We decided that on an artist that we actually really like. We felt like she had work that encapsulated what we were looking for. So we've reached out to Louise Jones to see if she's interested in or available or even within our price range to potentially do a mural and to come up with some concept designs. I was really amazed that all of the women on our CBC committee and Nick agreed to some of these concepts that we were looking at. I think we compromised a little bit, and if Nick and these women both said, yeah, we could live with that, I felt like we're moving in a really good direction. We'll see as time progresses. We have some fundraising ideas on the CBC. We're looking for donations to potentially participate in Junk in the Trunk this year. We're looking at creating an Adopt a Butterfly program, and we're also investigating the potential for a dog wash fundraiser. And we just recognized our quarterly good neighbor, Stephanie Smith, who I love seeing at all the library events. I run into her often. So I just wanted to congratulate her on receiving that recognition tonight. And if I missed anything, maybe Nick can jump in, but I think that should cover it.
You did good. We're going to bring the renderings of the GBB mural to council when we get a couple of them.
Very good. Okay, next on to the report from the Downtown Development Authority. Councilmember Peterson, do you want me to do that or you want to do that?
Well, you can if you like. I just think most of the items were discussed already.
Right,
Go
I
ahead.
agree. And Christie's here as well. I would just say the board said that we're having the full program this summer, of course, COVID appropriate. We talked about the sidewalk spending and just the dining platforms. One, I think that the number was a good compromise between the Parking Advisory Committee, the DDA, and the City Council, and that the dining platforms are going to be coming out very quickly. Nick had said that I think they're going to be able to deliver them very quickly.
Yep.
So kind of give our restaurants a chance to enjoy, which looks like coming to be pretty good weather now, and hopefully get that going. Nick?
I think they're actually going out this week, some of them.
Okay. Very good. Next is a report from the Planning Commission, Councilmember Bavacqua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just had one item on the agenda. It was a group that has not yet fully purchased the Solaronics property, but is considering it or in the process, and they would like to make it a self-storage facility, and that is a use that is a right of use based on the I-1 zoning as Solaronics is zoned. And there were folks on Planning Commission who had some questions for them, and I guess they may come back again. So that was it.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Bavacqua, this was going to be part of my update on the Paint Creek Trail, but since you brought up Solaronics. So the trail has an easement agreement with the Solaronics property owner, right? And with a specific intent based on its previous use that there would be a turnaround area, if you will, for trucks to come in and out. We're looking to terminate that agreement based on, so that we can restore the area that we have provided easement to the property owner. I don't know if the Planning Commission's aware of that. I guess I'm making everyone aware of it now.
Nick can jump in on that one. The easement was discussed.
Yeah,
Okay.
Not only was it discussed, but the architect must have met with the commission, Steve, our councilman, because they actually, their rough site plan had it all taken out, all green, fence up. They are very aware.
So the fence was removed.
Yes, yep. And then all that pavement was taken out and it was all green. So they were aware of that was going to be a terminated easement.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say the emphasis was on a preliminary plan. So there's a lot of work to do on that. Next is a Report from the Older Persons Commission, Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Certainly. So report from the April 22nd meeting. OPC recently passed their external audit. They also recently just passed an assessment done by the Area Agency on Aging, and they passed with flying colors and received a grant for $50,000, which they now are purchasing some new kitchen equipment. And that's used, for Meals on Wheels and taking great care of our seniors.
Great.
They have also put up a new OPC history wall. So next time you take a walk through the OPC, it's really nicely done, just giving credit to people who have donated in the past to the OPC. The 5K for Meals on Wheels is coming up June 5th. You can actually do it on June 5th, or you can do it virtually whenever you want to do it. So I encourage you to go to the website and sign up for that. The OPC has also applied through Congressman Stevens' community project to hopefully get an electric 15-passenger bus. Would be very cool. And then lastly, in the month of May, they're doing new member talks and tours. So May 5th, May 10th, May 19th. So just kind of an opportunity for people to just come in and check out the OPC if they've never been members, or maybe it's been a long time, after, coming through COVID here. So encourage people to come out and check out the OPC. Thank you.
Very good. Next, a report from the Pink Creek Trailway Commission, Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. I think a couple of months back, we had talked about the Vanguard chapter of Trout Unlimited assisted us with freeing up the log jam there at the bridge on our property at mile marker 31.7. So they have also come forward now again to provide us angler access. They're going to build some stairs near that bankment. So I guess my question is, do they require anything? Do they need to get permission, a permit to do so? I would assume part of it is our property, the trail property, but part of it's got to be city land as well, right?
Yep,
So
I can help. Yep, I can help with it. I talked to them about a month ago before they even applied, and they are going to work with the DEQ. DEQ is very supportive of angler access because it's limited, it's stones, it's natural, so they'll get their watershed permit from them, and they're okay with us. We would give them. I checked with Attorney Crott, and we talked about. We have other accesses like we did in the river grant here in town,
right
through the park, so we're good. So, they give me a map, attached it, and we administratively gave it to go ahead.
Great, thank you, Nick. Also want to thank Finance Director Maggio for a wonderful presentation. He gave an update to the Trail Commission on the All Abilities Park and was greatly appreciated and well received. And finally, Nick, another concern for you.
Okay.
The question came up is, when are we planting the trees at Gilbert and Upton?
Yeah, so I can give it. I ran to an ex-council person getting mulch bags that asked me the same question for a lot of time. So once we're trying to get the Uptons to agree to let us put a barrier there to stop them pushing the snow any further in, because again, the soil is contaminated from this winter. So we're gonna have to remove significant amount of soil to plant the trees because of the salt and the things they use on that area. So until they commit to stopping that, or we put a physical barrier there. So we talked to them about maybe a split rail fence, something that defines the area. So we can go ahead, remove the soil and get the trees established. It's going to be futile. We're not going to plant. They're going to die. So ongoing saga. I know it. They go back and forth. Okay, we'll do it. Then they don't. But we'll make a decision here, and maybe we just put the fence up on our own, and that snow will not be able to get there, and then we can take it. So I would hope by this fall we'll have that done. We still have to work with them, if you will, but it's high on the radar.
So since you've given me the timing of fall, that I know will not be well received by the Trailway Commission.
Right.
So what can we do to expedite this?
I will reach back out tomorrow to the Upton.
Okay. I mean, if Melissa can help, the trail manager can help with this process, with let's do it.
Yeah, and I know the trail commissions urged them to clean up that fence line, so they're a little jumpy on that relationship, but it doesn't matter because it's important in that corner. It's not that big a deal, quite frankly. Just keep them out of there and we can do this.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I know that they even looked at a snow contractor who said he could take the snow and haul it off, just like we haul snow out of parking lots. Someone's already told them he would do that for them because that's what they're worried about. It takes up space. Well, not at what expense? I think that's too much to get, too much good land to use to not just pay to have the snow removed. So I'm on it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's it.
Yeah. I also heard from probably the same former council person asking about that. So the former council person has been making the rounds.
Yes.
But you know, I think it's probably time to get that fixed. Okay.
And with the Rochester 100, Mayor, that's a good place to plant trees. We need to plant public trees, and I know the committee will be very much in support of that. We have the money. I just want to make sure they don't die.
Right. Well, Nick, that's your specialty, right? Make sure things don't die like that.
I hope not.
So, and then last but not least, a report from the RAH, Councilmember Albrecht.
Nick, don't push that Dillman thing onto the tree committee. You got to take care of that. So, no. But we'll be glad to use the tree fund to plant trees. We'll even go to Rochester 105 if we have to fill it. The RAH meeting was on April 14th. The great news is that we finalized agreement with Applied Fitness Solutions to occupy the other building. I always get the numbers mixed up. 480 building, I think. So that is good. That's great news because it's we had extra space there. We're now going to use that space with this lease that we've signed with them, which will allow us to generate in the first 2 years $60,000 to $120,000 in revenue for RAH. So a good use of space. To follow up from last meeting, Nick, I'm told that they've met with you regarding the permanent installation of the 480 building sign. So I look for that to happen in the next month or so. And
just waiting on their drawings. Yep.
Yep. We did review the cost of it, so I would think the drawings are there for you.
Okay.
And finally, for City Manager Wing, we'll be finishing our audit and talking about it at the May meeting. I would like to make a request to maybe have the RAH Executive Director present to City Council like we had with Raya a couple meetings ago.
Very good.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Next on to new business for referral and miscellaneous. Any public comment, Brian?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, on to receipt of the check register reports. Mr. City Manager.
Yep, there are just a few. Let me flip to those. For April 20th and April 15th. If you're okay, I can jump to the manager's update.
Yep, on to the city manager's update.
Thank you. So council was given our draft of our community survey, the actual reports, and our intern has done her initial, I guess, draft presentation to our staff. And as again, with interns, we're working through some of those to get it ready for prime time. And over the next 2 weeks, we'll have that ready. So on May 10th, we can be presenting that to City Council. The goal is also to include some potential highlights in our upcoming newsletter as well as a link to the full report on our website. So again, we'll have a presentation by our intern, again, who's started the whole project. So this would be from the beginning all the way to the end. So when we're formulating the questions and actually working with the printer and getting, the postal service stuff and everything, and working through all the issues and data getting entered in, and now processing the data and all that stuff. So she'll be speaking before council here on May 10th. Do want to also note that our community garden, the partnership with Dinosaur Hill, that will be opening actually today, starts the season. So today from dawn to dusk. So we've now kind of crossed over as it's gotten a little dark, but today was the beginning. And then just wanted to note that we started a cycle for our striping. So this is the crosswalks and some of the stop bars striping. We're working with the Oakland County Road Commission on an overall plan. And I did list out several of the actual roads, but again, we're on a 2-year cycle so that we actually maintain those visual barriers and crosswalks so that our residents are able to, and guests are able to, traverse our community safely. That's all I wanted to share tonight.
Very good. Councilmember Albrecht.
City Manager Wing, I know we got the draft of the spring newsletter. Has that gone out, or will it go out? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, actually, the spring newsletter has been printed and it's been dropped off at the post office. My understanding is actually it should be hitting doors maybe even tomorrow. But the summer newsletter will actually have the results of the survey. It was still being tabulated. So that one's actually shortly coming out. It took a little bit longer with the printing process and the post office process. Normally we get our spring newsletter out at the very end of March. This one, unfortunately, by the time we got it to the printer was in April, and now here we are basically at the end of April where it's going to be hitting the doors. But we did also push it out through our website and electronically a couple weeks ago, I want to say, when it was delivered to the printer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very good. Madam Clerk?
Just a couple items, Your Honor. Last week was the petition deadline to run for city council. We did get 7 candidates. That is not the 9 that would trigger an August primary. So therefore the August 3rd primary is canceled. And also on your next meeting, you will have boards and commissions appointments. Usually we have many, but unfortunately I've only gotten about 6 responses back on the direct emailed applications. So that's a little disappointing, but we'll keep trying.
Very good. Thank you. Attorney Crock.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Salvia. You're muted.
Sorry, just one quick comment. I know we've had a resident asking about lighting. I know in the associations, there's a lot of discussion around LED lighting and converting the lights. In the city, we've just updated lighting. I'm just thinking there needs to be some discussion or focus around lighting in the community. Maybe through the newsletter, maybe it's a discussion topic at council. Just kind of broadly what's happening with lighting and LED lighting, because I do think with those brighter lights, it's changing the way lighting works in our community. So just a thought. Thank you. And enjoy. I think tonight is a super moon at 11:30. So if we don't have clouds and if you're still awake, look out the window.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Bavacqua.
I would like to second the thought that we should be discussing lighting. I know we've had a recent discussion on multifamily residential lighting at the Planning Commission level. There's been some mitigation put in place to help remedy that, but not from an ordinance standpoint. The single family residential issues are out there as well. I know we have a resident that likes to come visit us quite often, and we always love to see her, and that sometimes people think that just because it's someone who comes quite often, it's not really an issue. But trust me, in my conversations with other residents, it's an issue. Just because they're not vocal enough to show up at city council doesn't mean that it's not something we should be discussing. So I would like to see that happen. Thanks.
Very good. Councilmember Peterson.
Tonight, I would like to thank the DDA for getting all the new events scheduled and ready to go for the community. Like to thank the police chief and his department for the administrators week again for what they've done. And it's nice to go in and chat with them, and it's a great group of people that have a very important job for our community. I would also like to reiterate that I would like to have some of these small subcommittees stop so we can all be part of the conversation. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Albrecht.
I forgot to report on my rah-rah in, I guess, trying to do this without this is the postcard that went out to all residents in the different communities, and replacing what used to be the Rah Rah magazine that had pages and pages of everything. Now you can access the magazine through scanning the digital, whatever those things are called, that you can pick up. What are they called?
QR codes.
QR codes. Okay.
Yep.
Like you pick up your menu at the restaurant. They were in the mail. I got mine about 10 days ago, so please look for them, all residents. All the activities are in there for adults, for kids, for dance, for everything else. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Councilmember Bakwa, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that's a great idea. The printing, it's unfortunate. I work in the print industry. It doesn't have as much of a value as it did in some cases. And that might be one of those cases. And the quality of that publication was not the best to begin with. So it's nice that we can save some trees, save some money, and still allow people to access, the materials. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and Mayor, I just want to add, that's been going out as a postcard for 3 years now. So they've really worked to do that to save money from the very beginning. So thank you.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to ask administration to bring to council a proclamation declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. You might recall that we did that last year. It's the same resolution, just recognizing that for June. Thank you.
Very good. I just have one thing, just a shout out for I'm sorry, Councilmember Albrecht.
Councilmember Sage wasn't called on.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Sage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things.
I miss you right in front of me there.
Couple of things. I echo Mayor Pro Tem Salvia and Councilmember Bavacqua's suggestion. I would love to see the lighting ordinance on a future council meeting agenda for robust discussion with council. I think it would benefit all of us, and I think it would do a service to the citizens. And secondly, we had heard some news from the Rochester Community Schools regarding their building and their opportunity for relocation. I want to make a reminder to council, because it's going to come back up whenever that becomes the eventual relocation. We have a mural that we installed in that building that is a Depression era, a mural that was commissioned under the Federal Arts Project, and it's by a local artist here. So it's invaluable. We need to find a home for that mural and relocate it to a suitable location within the city.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. Councilmember Peterson.
No, just real quick. Can we find out and get those dimensions? I remember when that was done. And so we can at least start looking. It's a shame to know that we're going to have, a district just tear down one of the buildings, and hopefully it's not been deeded to where they can, hopefully we find out if it's been deeded or not to be able to change that use at all because of how it was gifted to them in the past. So.
Yeah, I think right now it's zoned residential.
Residential.
It's residential, and the school board formed a committee to decide what to do with that. I assume they're going to sell it, and then we're gonna all have to deal with what goes in there as 4 acres, which to me is prime property. Mayor Pro Tem Salvia?
Thank you. I'd just like to make a suggestion. Why wouldn't the school take it to their new building? Can they relocate the mural to the new building? That would be my preference.
I guess I was thinking when we refurbish the community house, maybe that would be a potential site for reinstallation.
Or City Hall.
Councilmember Bavacqua.
Yeah, just wanted to throw out a couple quick numbers that was in the communication from the school district. They were looking at refurbishing so that they could properly use the building in the future. A cost of close $29 million, if I'm not mistaken. The cost of the new facility was 7 plus an additional 3 million in upgrades, so 10 total, or around 10. So you're talking about $19 million in savings by them moving from one facility to another. So, I appreciate the school board for being fiscally responsible and doing the right thing, as difficult as it may be to move out of what is beautiful looking historical building. But unfortunately, the likelihood of anybody else being able to utilize that facility is going to be slim to none. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way things go sometimes.
Mayor, I would like to clarify what I was saying. We had this happen to our community about 10, 12 years ago, when they were going to sell off McGregor Elementary, and they found out that they couldn't sell McGregor off to anyone because it was actually given to them, and there was specific rules of what type of use it had to stay. So whether it's zoned something or not, if that comes up, that is going to be something that would stop that. So I know it's being looked into. So.
Yeah. Well, also the school board seems to have plenty of money.
Yeah, obviously.
Because they passed that $100 million bond a few years ago. So they could build football stadiums and things like that. So, but we're all for football, right? So, just one thing I like to say is again, kind of a shout out for the pollinators on the trail, the Paint Creek Trail by Kings Cove. They have a pollinator thing. They had some people working on it, and I was talking to them, and they gave full credit to Marilyn Trent. And what we've been doing in the city of Rochester kind of gave them, the idea to do that. And, they really gave Marilyn and the City Beautiful Committee full credit for that. So kudos to Marilyn Trent on that. And other than that, without further ado, thank you everybody for coming tonight, and meeting adjourned. So good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.